The Old Testament. But a quick summary of it, not the whole thing, don't worry. That would take ages.
First, God made the world and saw that it was good. He made people to be like him, and he made them because he loved them. Adam and Eve were the first ones.
Hey guys.
He told them, don't eat the fruit.
Don't eat this.
But they got hungry and decided what they wanted was more important than what God wanted, and so they ate the fruit. Oops, bad decision. From that point on, people just did worse and worse and worse stuff that they wanted to do. And Adam and Eve's son, Cain, killed his brother Abel because he got jealous of him. That is not good. Everything got so out of hand that God decided to start again. There was one good guy called Noah, you know, the one that built the big boat. And so God decided to save him and his family and some animals, but cause a flood to get rid of everything else. A fresh start, a clean slate. But then Noah drank a little bit too much wine and ended up naked in a field. That is not good. Things started to go bad again. People were living for themselves and not for God. It was like they didn't care about him. Fast forward a bit, and there's a pretty old guy called Abraham. And God starts speaking to him, saying that he will have children and that his family will end up being so big that you can't even count them, like stars in the sky or grains of sand on the beach. Abraham tries to make God's promise happen all by himself, but that was never God's plan. Then, when Abraham hits 100 years old, he finally has the son God promised, called Isaac. Isaac has some kids called Jacob and Esau. Jacob then has loads of children, and one of them is called Joseph.
Thanks for the jacket, Dad. Oh, hey guys, I'm the favourite.
Joseph gets beaten up by his brothers and sold as a slave in Egypt. He ends up being a pretty big deal because he listens to God. And then he ends up helping the king of Egypt look after all of Egypt.
Pretty cool, huh?
Eventually, all of Joseph's brothers come back, and now they all live in Egypt, happily ever after, right? They start having loads and loads and loads of kids. There's loads of them. Suddenly, a new king takes over Egypt, but he's scared of all these people, who are now called the Israelites, by the way. So he makes them slaves. A bit later on, Moses is born. He rescues all the Israelites from being slaves by trusting in God. He then gets given the 10 Commandments to show the people how to live and starts a big journey to a new promised land. However, then the people start to mess up and break the 10 Commandments, so they don't make it to the promised land for 40 years. A guy called Joshua eventually leads them to the promised land.
This way.
And then, for some time after this, people keep messing up and needing to be rescued by various people that God uses to help them. People like Samson and Gideon.
I don't trust you. I just want to be sure.
And Deborah.
Hiya.
After a while, the Israelites noticed that all the other countries nearby have a king.
Look here.
So they asked God,
Please, can we have a king?
and God's like,
You don't need a king. You've got me.
but the people are like,
Please, can we have a king? 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 Please, can we have a king?
and eventually God says,
Oh, sure. Have this guy.
and gives them a guy called Saul to be the king.
Yeah.
He was a pretty good king at the start, but then he started to do things his own way, not God's way. So God gave them David to be a new king. He's the guy that killed Goliath. Remember him?
Goliath? More like goodbye-eth.
David was pretty good at being a king too, but he also made some bad mistakes. After David, his son Solomon becomes king, and he builds a massive temple for God.
Oh, I'm building things. Very, very wise. Very, very wise. That's why I got a big wise beard.
After Solomon, things start getting a bit confusing. There's a bunch more kings. The people keep messing up and going away from God, but God still loves them. So he sends people called the prophets to tell them to follow God again, but they don't do a very good job of listening. The Israelites get attacked by a bunch of different armies, and a few people throughout, well, they still listen to God. People like Daniel and some of his mates who didn't quite listen to the king when they were told to worship the king and not God.
Not so bad. Bit chilly, actually. Anything?
Finally, a prophet called Malachi tries to convince the Israelites to be faithful to God again. And then God, well, he appears to be silent for 450 years. The Israelites keep getting invaded by various people, including the Romans. And then Jesus is born.
No.
But you probably already know that story
baby.
pretty well, as we talk about it every single Christmas time, don't we?
Who are you? I'm a shepherd. It's okay, Mildred.